Welcome to BIM Talks, the podcast where we get into the nuts, bolts, and way too many submittals of the construction world. Today's guest is a project manager at Unified Specialty Services, living and breathing Division 10 and 12. That's specialty construction for the uninitiated. We're talking cabinets, shades that actually have to fit the window, furniture that has to survive a Monday morning, and cabinetry that better be level or someone's hearing about it. This is the person making sure your building doesn't just stand up, but it looks good and functions perfectly. So grab your coffees, find a chair, hopefully the one that's pegged, and let's get into it. Welcome, Nick. It's great having you on the channel. How's it going with you?
Oh, not bad. Thanks for having me. Every day something new. It's construction, right?
Yes. Especially in your field. You're working on Division 10 and 12.
Yes,
That's really, that's kind of a niche sector in construction.
we are very
Most people
niche.
don't really, most people don't really, dream or think about working in this vertical of construction, right? So what is your origin story? How did you end up in this?
So originally, when I got out of high school, I was actually cutting hair. And I ended up, like, some of my clients were doing civil work and that form of construction. So I got in with them doing civil and structural work. And then I continued doing that, but I was cutting hair on the side. And a guy that I cut his hair for a long time, he actually was kind of a higher up in a company for Division 10 and 12. And he asked me if I wanted to come over and be a project manager for them. And that's sort of how I fell into Division 10 and 12. But most of my construction background have been in civil and structural. So it's way different construction, like totally different, but the steps are the same. I mean, as far as construction goes from A to B,
Yeah.
it's generally the same.
Hair cutting,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, I couldn't afford
from
college,
hair cutting to
so
construction.
yes, I had to go somewhere to make money. So college wasn't an option. It was an easy route to go. I ended up being pretty good at it, and then I made connections from there, and next thing you know, I'm here where I am now. So it's been way different line of works over the past 10 years, 12 years. But it's been fun. I mean, you learn a lot going from construction to construction on how people do things. But all the processes and like the way the flow of work goes is pretty much generally across the board, which is cool to see.
But this is really interesting. Not from the field and then being a project manager directly. That's really something.
So I did work field when I was doing civil and structural. I have never been in the field as far as Div 10 or Div 12 goes.
Okay.
But yeah, so the construction's way different. I mean, being in the field doing civil and structural, then trying to learn specialty work instead of actually being hands-on and just learning it through plans and ordering, and the process is definitely not the same. So it's been an uphill battle, to say the least. I know you've been on a project with us too, so like I'm trying to learn as we kind of shift things, and I'm glad I have some form of a structural background there because it's been helpful.
Definitely.
But yeah, I would not say I know everything about Div 10 and Div 12 yet, for sure.
I'm learning with you, so that's helpful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's part of construction, right? We learn every day.
Oh yes, absolutely. This is definitely something new because I've been from an interior background, so I know what all goes in there. But been in BIM for quite some time and doing just MEPF, and now Division 10 and 12. This is really interesting and something totally something that has been sidelined for most projects. So working on this one directly with you was really an eye opener and quite a learning experience, actually.
We still got a lot more to go too, so
Oh, yes.
we're not even near the finish line yet, but we're getting there. So
Yes. When you're not out on the field, what does your typical day look like? Like, what do you do? How does the role fit in here?
typically it's coming in. You're basically picking up from the following day on where you didn't achieve what you needed to, and then a lot of that is, you're in the plans pretty much all day, marking up plans for different jobs. A lot of our jobs, I don't want to say are smaller, but you can kind of go
Mhm.
through multiple jobs in a day. So you're marking up plans for maybe one job, then shifting over to another job, and ultimately, like, in my role here, we do a lot of other like kind of niche areas that like might not fall under Div 10 or might not fall under Div 12. It's kind of in between.
Yeah.
Um, so like I have some T&M jobs that we're doing. So it's a lot of tracking, calling the guys in the field, making sure I have a list of what they've done, what we can bill for. Um, but the way I kind of see it is like estimation takes your basically your budget. They create it for you, and then my job up at top is making sure we either beat it or stay on budget. um
Right.
but most of the day is just it's going through plans and making sure we didn't miss anything and where costs are going to be coming. And
Yeah.
apparently in some jobs engineering like what we need to do, and the role is it really changes on a day-to-day basis on what you're doing in the
Yeah.
office. But I try not to fall too far behind, but it's easy to do when you got 5 jobs going on at once and you're trying to stay ahead of one of the others, and then you're getting jobs from downstairs to upstairs, which would be estimation to PM roles. You're now
Right.
getting new jobs as you're trying to beat out old jobs, so it's never ending. If you don't like stress, don't join it. But yeah, that's pretty much the role from day to day. Things change constantly, as you know.
So, what are those additional scopes that you were talking about just now, apart from Div 10 and 12, that you work on?
So we have a
Just
job right now. I mean, it's still technically, I guess, Division 10, you could say, because it is specialty work. But there's a company out in Texas that does like uh, they make the pods for bathrooms in their warehouses, and then they send out module pods that get dropped in by a crane into like say
Ah,
more like apartment buildings and stuff, and then they build walls and stuff around those pods, and then
okay.
you're basically taping drywall and like plumbing and stuff. It all gets roughed into a modular pod that was built. And we were hired to kind of, it was a hot rush job to get out there. So a lot of the pods kind of took a beating. And we were hired to pretty much beef up those pods and reattach things that might have fallen and do the caulking around there, around each joint. And so it's kind of just been a process of tracking the T&M job for it. Um,
Mhm.
and then we have other jobs too that, we work well with GCs. So sometimes GCs will kind of ask us to do some things that might be not something that typically would fall in our scope. Like maybe like, I don't know, stay like you have bleacher benches that you need installed, still carpentry work, but it might not be something our company advertises.
Right.
And somehow those jobs end up in my lap, which I'm fine
Oh,
with,
they do.
but I don't know how I get these odds and ends jobs. Sometimes they just appear, and next thing you know, I'm the one taking care of monitoring how we bill it. So, but yeah, that's basically the in betweens of the jobs that we have. But typically, it all kind of falls under specialty work and like shade install.
Right. So it must be challenging, something like this coming and falling in your lap, something that you don't typically do, right?
Yeah, ChatGPT has been a good friend of mine. We get to know each other quite a bit.
No, it's not.
But it's yeah, I mean, it's again, that's part of the learning curve. Like, it's never really things that are super out of the ordinary. You get a set of plans from the actual company on how they get installed. And as long as you know how to read installation guides and you kind of understand general construction, like piecing it together isn't hard. It's just a matter of how you're going to go about ordering and sending out what you need and getting guys there who can do it. You're usually the first resort for the guys in the field if they don't quite understand something. So that's kind of how like that goes in our side of work. I know some construction wise, it would be the superintendent you'd call first, but the way Div 10 works is we're constantly moving around that like we really only have one general super who does everything. And then questions from the foreman get brought up to PMs. So that's like the flow of work for our side of it.
I'm curious to know, Nick, you must have, when you started with the company, I'm sure you started from scratch and then you had to learn all of this, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm only 4 months into Div 10. So
Oh, wow.
I try to just, after work, like still not work, but try to learn work. So it's just constantly like, again, you're just reading plants and asking questions, never being afraid to look dumb. That's like my main thing is like a lot of the times I don't know anything and some people are afraid to ask. And to be honest, whatever, I may look dumb, but if I didn't know the answer at the time and then you tell me the answer, now I know it. So whether I'll know it for the long haul now, so that's been my biggest takeaway from every form of construction is just like people would rather you ask. You get a lot more respect for the question than just staying quiet and acting like you know it. But
Absolutely. I would agree.
yeah, so yeah, to say the least, I'm definitely in a learning curve still. But hopefully I'll get there one day. I'm sure by the time I learn it, it'll change. So who knows?
Yeah. So since it's been just a few months, you've been in Div 10, had you had a chance to know how it was earlier? Since now with BIM and everything coming up, it used to be just a 2D drawing earlier, right? Everybody used to work off of papers and submittals that they would get. Now you have everything on 3D. How is that different? Does that affect your business? Is it growing? Is the market changing now? Are you more receptive to, learning the future?
Oh, I think BIM is going to be how everything's done. But as far as our actual work goes, like in Div 10, I think the only form I've run into of 3D modeling and BIM work is in the job that we're working with you on. I don't have a single 3D drawing for any other job I have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when we were working structural and civil before, we were building power plants. We had 3D models all the time, and you could catch a lot of mistakes where, say, pipe work would run into structural work, or your electrical work might need workaround but you would catch it on the model because it would show.
Yes.
But as far as Div 10 goes, like there's not a lot of that. But it's definitely as soon as things become more like transparent and able for easier solutions of like doing 3D work, I can't imagine things stay 2D. I mean, you'll always have 2D as like a backup, but just being able to see your whole elements in a 3D world, like it's like being in the site. So
Right.
I can't see 3D not taking off.
Right. So I guess Div 10 and 12 is still pretty new to 3D modeling and BIM in construction. But UDH kind of describes itself as total opening solutions, right? From designing and specs through installation and aftermarket support. Now touching on Division 10 and 12, furnishings and other items that you work on in your projects. How is it managing all of this scope? How does it feel like? Is it different from working on paper and now online?
Oh yeah. I mean, we don't really do anything on paper anymore. It's all Bluebeam
Yeah.
and PDFs, and like I don't even have a printed out like blueprint anywhere in my office. So like it's just constantly you go on Bluebeam, you mark it up there. But
Yes.
I know like as far as the company I work for, like we're overseen by like a door company. They do a lot of CAD work and a lot of design. So like that's where like UDH kind of comes from saying that they do a lot of design work is because in doors and hardware, it's all designed through CAD and 3D modeling and everything is it's easier that way. I mean, you can see your width of your door, you can see everything like blocking that might be inside of it. Like it's all designed on the software, you know?
Right.
And then that software gets sent over. As far as 2D images, like you're getting them off Procore, sending them to Bluebeam, and then marking up Bluebeams as they go. But being able to scale right on the computer, like Bluebeam does the scaling for you. Like
Oh,
adding working on paper, we did that a lot when I was working in the field, which is great because you can mark up, notes and stuff as you're out in the fields with the guys. But that's kind of where it lies, right? Like once you come back to the trailer, that information is now getting entered into your computer on Bluebeam. And then everything communication wise between offices to offices, or even you to the foreman who might have an iPad outside or whatever, it all gets sent over
Yeah.
through Bluebeam. I mean,
Mm.
can't tell you how many times you're in a rainstorm or something, like paper's just not going to hold up, or big gust of wind comes by, blows your plans away. Like
Oh yeah.
it just, the wave of the future it's just not gonna be paper. Like you always have those guys that are going to have paper.
There's quite a few out there,
Oh,
Still.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's the old generation who know better than all of us.
I've recently had a chance to work with a few, and they're like, I don't understand what you're doing online. I need it on a sheet of paper. It's easier for them to read and understand what is happening. And since they're more experienced, um, I mean, it's their way of working. So
Yeah.
can't really question that as well.
Yeah, and it's definitely harder to mark up a BIM model.
Yeah.
So like I get the point for a 2D image or however you want to send it over, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's way
Mhm.
easier to make up like notes or however you want to draw. That's hard to do on a 3D model, at least right now. I mean, as it gets better and things change, once that stuff becomes more available, I mean, it makes sense to have everything in a 3D image.
Yes.
But I do understand the point of a 2D and wanting like the raw data,
Yeah, yeah. But it all starts there, you have submittals. They're all hard copies you get from your vendors and how you probably have a lot of in-house stuff as well. So when you're coordinating across all of these divisions and specialities, what have you seen any common mistakes from architects and GCs that really create a pain for you downstream on the job site? I'm sure because what you do is very, niche and specific to a trade. And the architects and GCs might not know the in and outs of that particular service. So does that create an issue?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time that we run into is it's always been linking the plans to specifications. The architect might have a certain specification that they've used forever.
Right.
And then that stays the same. And then products themselves that they then reference don't stay the same. So like there's a lot of disconnect between what you used to buy and what used to be specified to what is now available and what you're buying. So when you go to do your submittal stage, they'll come back to you and say, oh, this product doesn't meet specifications. And a lot of the times you sit there and you say, well, it's an approved vendor of yours. Like this is what they gave me when I sent over a takeoff for what we get. So like I have a job now where we're sending over basically like material breakouts of like what the actual metals themselves, like what their break points are, and like what the material's made of, the thickness of materials, the gauging of metals, like just to try to get it approved.
Right.
Because their specifications don't match the gauging of the actual vendor that they allow you to use. But I think a lot of that's run into because they're used to using one product, and when somebody kind of goes away from that one product and they use a different
Mm-hmm.
kind of vendor, the architects might not know the details of that vendor. Now you're trying to introduce them to it and kind of, spoon feed them like the information of like, hey, like this is what we're trying to use. It's not very different, but it's different. And in a lot of ways, it benefits them. It might be stronger or it's easier to work with in the field. So things help the guys move along as well. And I think that's a big disconnect from the two worlds of being like in the office or maybe drawing plans or how guys install things. Like a lot of the times architects or even office workers, they've never installed the product. So they might not know like,
Yeah.
hey, let me use this product instead because it's easier to work with. And they start to have some pushback and it's like, well, I can do now the job 3 days quicker than what we quoted you. That's cost savings. So
Yes.
that's for me been the biggest disconnect. But yeah, I mean, you also have disconnects from like estimation might do a different takeoff than what you see when it comes upstairs. And by the time like in our portion of construction, like we're towards the end of the project. So like by the time estimation gets it, they might be on revision 5 and they bid off of revision 5. By the time they take that and send it to me, I could be on revision 7. So like now I'm going through the scope, seeing what has changed, what hasn't changed, sending credits, getting change orders. Like, so that's also been like a difference in construction. Cause when I was doing civil, we're the first ones on the site. So we're typically,
Yes.
you don't have anything built yet. So there's no change orders. There's no changes yet. Like you're going off of the construction set that was sent out. And then we're creating change orders because things might be different in the field as we dig or however you might do it. So it's definitely been a difference between when we start in Division 10 and when we started in civil.
Yeah. I mean, civil is quite different from Division 10 and 12, I'm sure. Even though you're working on the site, I think the coordination process is sometimes running parallel to when you started putting foot on the site. So they do bring out a lot of changes while coordination. Does that also affect your process flow of how you're working then on the site?
Yeah, the changes, I mean, they affect everything from the office to the guys. I mean, a lot of the times the guys go out to field, what was sent out, the changes don't match. And now you're kind of mixing things up on the fly. I mean, you order based upon the approved submittals. Approved submittals get sent out. You go there to say VIF or even after VIF, and next thing you know, you guys are calling you like, hey, like this isn't big enough, or this is too short, or whatever it is, right? And you're like, what do you mean? Then you call the super, and then you're constantly figuring out on the fly these changes, and that's the hardest disconnect of it all. But I mean, those are some things too. Like, I don't know how you even plan for. Like, you can have the best drawings, like, there's just always hiccups somewhere along the line. Someone free changed everything and kind of did their own thing, and that's when the as builds come in. And next thing you know, the as builds don't match plans, and now you're giving them to somebody else. Like, hey, here's your information. It's like, whoa, wait a second. Like, this doesn't match what I got approved on my submittals.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the changes that's where everything slows up or speeds up, or where you lose everything is in the changes.
Oh, yes. It's a pain. I mean, when you're already on site working and then these changes come in and you have to look and work through everything from code compliance to fire ratings and whatnot. Um, I'm sure you face such issues. And have you had any experiences where something like this happening, changes coming through midway, sort of had derailed the project completely, or something just created a mess and then how you probably resolved it?
I've never had a project get derailed, but we've definitely had times where, you get way pushed back until problems are solved. A lot of the times it's coordination between the general contractors and the designers and the actual owners of the projects, because a lot of the times they want something that, looked good on paper, but it can't physically be built. So now you're in this huge waiting period. Everyone's asking you like what we're doing. Next thing you know, subs are standing around doing nothing. That's all money. But at the end of the day, like if your client has enough money, I don't think the project can get derailed. Um, you can you can always throw money at a problem and it's gonna fix itself. But as far as what we do, like for Division 10, like a lot of the issues we come across, like they're solvable. So like our construction typically never has a project like to the point where it stops or can't be done. It might be a couple days we leave, you have conversations with an architect back and forth on how you want to proceed. And then you might bring you guys back later to finish how they want to do it. But I'm sure there definitely are other like scopes and projects that would probably have way bigger hiccups than we do. But that, like, I'm sure MEPs and electricals and all those type of subs, like roofing subs, things like that, like iron workers, I'm sure that's where a lot of the hiccups will. I mean, projects you're
Yes.
talking millions of dollars in changes. I mean, God forbid steel's not right. I mean, steel's steel, like
Yeah.
not much you can change on a design of a building once the building's designed without it being a huge cost.
Oh, yes. That's the first thing to go up too. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Dig the footing and then the footing gets approved on how you want to do it. And then steel's next. So if that steel's not right by the time the steel's ordered, it's always a massive change.
oh, that pushes all of the other trades as well.
Exactly.
Because when the steel is going up, they need all of the openings. And if the duct submittals or the equipment submittals don't match or they're not even approved, that kind of brings up the project to a halt because then you don't know what openings to give. So, yeah, that's that.
I think that's where you'll see a lot of BIM like being extremely helpful in the future. Because it's, I mean, a lot of the times when you see it in 3D, you can catch the problems before they're built. But I definitely think like GCs and maybe owners don't understand quite that like the BIM models are strictly sometimes for designs. And a lot of times they think they're getting designs and load calcs and like, and if the firm they use don't do all that because they're not like, you can be you don't have to be an engineer to be a BIM modeler.
Right.
Like that has to go through the engineer process. And I think a lot of the times that gets lost too in the project because then you're fighting between designers and engineers. And it's like, well, dude, I just designed it. I didn't engineer it. So there's definitely a like a mislabeling of who does what when it comes to BIM modeling. But hopefully that gets sorted out in the future once it gets used more and people understand what they're getting.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Does this steel affect your trade as well? Division 10, 12?
It can. A lot of the times for us, if blocking was missed where we have to put something, that's typically where we get held up a lot. Like, you're putting a fire cabinet in the wall, right? And like you have an opening, so you're supposed to have wood on each side to put your screws into, and then all of a sudden the blocking wasn't there, or you're putting up a coat hook and the coat hook was supposed to have blocking behind it and now it's not there. Now it's, you're going back to the drawing board, like what kind of inserts can we use? Are those approved? Like how much weight's going to be on it? If it's not, does the wall need to get cut open to install blocking? Like all those questions get entertained at that point, and it really just becomes a cost effect because it's like they have to go back in, cut open the wall and put blocking. Like who's paying for that? So it becomes who missed what pretty much at my point. But as far as like massive steel work, we might have a problem like on the shade job I'm doing with you, where we have to do mounting brackets on top of steel.
Yes.
So if the steel's not right, like that's going to cause a massive concern. But
Yeah.
being how the steel's already done at that job and the project's past the steel work, most of the steel that we already built upon should be there because it was in the model. If it was in the model, supposedly it got built. I'm curious to go see the site. But from my understanding, the steel's correct. So we shouldn't have a problem there. But
So when we're doing 3D or BIM for any project, for instance, the one that we're working on, the shade, now the 3D does show that those shades are clashing with those decorative, those wooden baby ceiling things there. Now, had it not been for BIM, it was just 2D on CAD, and how would you have figured it out? Something after going on the site that it's clashing, it's not going to work.
probably have to do some form of a site walk, maybe a coordination with the subs. Typically, like before 3D, I know like when you're drawing in 2D CAD, like you can assign a point or an element, an elevation. So even though it wasn't in drawing 3D, hopefully they would have had some form of an elevation designed. Obviously that's hoping for the best, but architects typically too, I know will account for elevations that way as well. But as far as we know, like we're kind of setting an elevation and then they're giving us, they're going to adjust the shades or adjust the ceiling based upon each other's elevations as we coordinate. But I think that'll be down the road, definitely a conversation between us and the contractors who are doing the ceiling. And I'm sure we'll have some form of an internal meeting between us and the architects about specific elevations, because we'll be sitting up on threaded rods. So we'll have the ability to go up and down plus or minus a couple inches, maybe a foot at the most. But, then once you start going too far down, threaded rod on a heavy shade, you're going to start, coming into sway. And,
Yes.
that becomes a problem in itself. So you can only adjust so much before other elements become problems. But I think coordination meetings are a lot of the times the way to go. And it's as simple as sometimes you just meet in the field and, hey, that's where it's going. Okay, cool. We can build upon that. All right, awesome. Sometimes overcomplicating it gets too big of a problem. Everyone tries to think too much and things get slowed down. But I think that's how it's going to go in that situation. Is we'll just have a coordination meeting between us and the and the actual designers themselves. But hopefully when they built it, they had elevations in mind and we can basically go off of those elevations. But before 3D, that's how I would assume they would have done it, was at least talked with each other about, hey, where do you want this stuff? Like, what's your height? But
Okay. So yeah, project's still at an early stage. So coordination is the way to go then.
yeah. And it's good. We actually will have they're gonna have basically a demo room in the summer. So we'll actually have a shade up for one of their demo rooms that they can kind of show how it's gonna look. So that'll have the Unistrut system in it as well. So it'll be cool to see it actually like be put together. But definitely a push for getting the stuff out so we can get stuff approved and start ordering. But we'll get there. We always do.
Right. I would love to see that.
I'll take
all right.
pictures.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be nice. So something like that, the shade project that we're working on. And then you work on a lot of different sectors, I'm sure, in healthcare, high-rise buildings, educational buildings. Now, does your approach to a project shifts or changes when it's something like a renovation project, like, for instance, a healthcare building that's already running up and about, and then something that is going ground up from scratch? How are the two different? Do you have different approaches? And what are the challenges that you might have faced then?
Well, the biggest challenges we have is if it's like occupied or not, because a lot of the times then it's coordination of them shutting down certain portions of the building for you to be able to work. A lot of trades, like, they don't want to have patients or whatever you're working with, maybe students if you're in a school. They try to make it so you're never clashing with each other. So they try to give their trades their own space and the kids not like interfering or the patients not interfering. So that's when it becomes just coordination issues. The construction is the construction, like not much of a difference between, installing, I don't know, say a curtain track in a hospital where you're doing a curtain track for a shower. Like the construction's the same. The coordination becomes a lot harder. Building something that's not renovated or even occupied, you get away with doing a lot more stuff you wouldn't typically do in an occupied building. You might have way more guys there to bang out work, whereas when you have it occupied, you can only send like maybe 1 or 2 guys to work 8 hours during certain times, or you end up working night shifts or mid shifts, so it changes a lot on coordination. That's where it changes everything when different sectors come into play.
Right. And do the coordination dynamics also between your team and the GC superintendent on the site? How are the dynamics there? Do typically things go smoothly or some clashes? Any clash?
They go pretty smooth once you get like to the actual like day of work. Leading up to it, it becomes a lot harder. Superintendents are definitely like the most important part of a job site. Everything runs through them. They're the lifelines. But trying to coordinate it beforehand between, say, PM, superintendent, you, the guys, the field coordination guys, of when you can get there, like that all behind the scenes becomes sometimes a headache. Not every job, but sometimes it's a lot harder to get guys in. You can't get guys that are free to match their schedule. Their schedules don't ever match when you have guys free and you're fishing. But once you finally get on site, a lot of the times, I mean, it goes smooth. You have the plan hashed out way before you even arrive. Then the hardest part is like if you arrive and they throw a wrench in it, and next thing you know, the stuff's not ready. A lot of the times that happens. They say, "Hey, come in, do a shower door." You get there and they're still putting drywall up, and it's like, yeah, I can't install a shower door with no drywall. So like that's when coordination becomes an issue. And then if I sent a guy out there to do something and it's not ready, now I'm sending them a charge for that guy, and they don't want to pay for it because we didn't do any work. But it becomes a back and forth all the time. But with good coordination, all that gets avoided. So it kind of just depends on where you work with, who you work with, how things progress, how things don't progress. Because they have a schedule to keep, and a lot of the times the schedule is what they always try to aim for. So they get you out there thinking the schedule is fine, and then the schedule blows up in their face as typical. So
Right. So that makes me think, just like a thought that the GCs and the owners, they're not treating or thinking about Division 10 and 12 as much as other trades and treating it as an add-on in a project. Where do you think this space is heading, and is it changing now? Have you seen a change in the GCs and owners' attitudes toward Division 10 and 12?
yeah, I mean, we're definitely like we're kind of the pretty stuff we put up. So people want to make sure it's right,
Yeah.
So we're definitely like, I wouldn't say we're prioritized by any means, but we're sort of the last on projects. So a lot of the times, it's not that we're not like looked at as something important. We're just, usually they try to push us to get in so they can finish the project. And sometimes they just push too fast without realizing how fast they're getting us in. So that's where everything gets messed up. But as far as an afterthought, I mean, I think they're definitely thinking of us. They just might think of us too soon. Or sometimes they think of us too late, and they're asking us to get our submittals in and have everyone on site within 2 weeks. And it's like, that's not possible. A lot of the times you have lead times on, say, shade, like our shade times can be 6 weeks out before you get them. So it's like,
Right.
You can't hit me with a project 2 weeks out and expect me to get there in 2 weeks when I can't even get material for 6.
So,
So
yeah, that must be creating issues, right? Because if the walls are already up and they're expecting you to sort of match to what is already on the site, that is difficult sometimes. You don't have that particular spec then.
oh yeah, all the time. That happens all the time. And that's when like we have a lot of finished carpenters, like the guys on site, they're good at what
Yeah.
they do. So they get crafty and they're able to make stuff work, which is awesome. It's just when things are too far gone, where like, my guys we don't have drywall readily available to just stick up. Like, could my guys be able to do it? Sure, but they're not prepared to do it, and nor is it in my scope of work to do it. So a lot of the times that's where things go back and forth is, it's not in my scope. I didn't plan for this. That's extra cost, this and that. But it all gets hashed out in the end. The job always gets done.
Yeah. So what about things that are prefabricated? I'm sure those are, if something like this happens with those items, that's additional cost. Everything boils down to money.
Everything. It's the root of all evil, right? But yeah, I mean, we have like a lot of times we'll do like think of like a storage area where you might have something. We'll do like steel cages. A lot of times those come pre-built. So but at least in our side of it, we don't ever really release anything unless it's like verified in field, so most of the time if something was bought and it's wrong, typically it can have the fingers pointed at us because we did go out and we verified it. You have very rare cases where something might have changed after you VIF'd it. And at that point, you do have the conversation with the GC, like, hey, listen, like, this changed after we VIF'd it. Like, we should come back out and VIF. And if they tell you no to order it, like, I want that in writing. So if it's wrong, I've said that we need to go out there. It can't be on me that I have to eat that cost. But any sort of change, typically everyone's on the same page as far as like doing verified in field and making sure prefab things are bought right, because a $20,000 cage, if I gotta buy it twice, it's a $40,000 cage. So
Yes.
no one wants to pay an extra 20 grand that doesn't need to be paid for.
Absolutely. I'm sure they don't.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you think, or if you could change one thing about how architects or GCs specify Division 10 and 12 specialties on the documents, the initial CD documents, what would it be? Where does a spec consistently set the field team up for something that can be easily avoidable?
I think a lot of it just comes down to just they're not used to working with the project. So, I mean, with the product. So a lot of it would just be in a perfect world, an architect would know every product they're using, but like to learn every product that ever goes into a building that's crazy to think would ever happen. So I think a lot of the times what's missed when it comes to making specification is actually like job site to job site instead of just a general spec. Like a lot of the times they'll have just a copy and paste spec that they've used for years. And
Yeah.
if it's worked for years, why wouldn't it work? But each building or each job is always specific. So a good knowledge of like actually going out and applying that spec in real life, I think helps a lot. But again, a lot of that is also a perfect world portion where like, who's paying for the architect to go out there and do that on every job, or which architect wants to go and do that on every job, or, like just changing from job site to job site it's totally different. So maybe like that's where something like, BIM would come in and help, because they can see it in 3D and, like a spec on a typical fire cabinet, you might be able to see now real time that's not going to fit in that wall that you've told me to put it in. So now I got to change the spec on what I'm asking for, or we got to make the wall bigger because it's cheaper to do that now since it's not built. But once it's built, I mean, as far as it goes from my end of it, once something's built and they're ordering it, it's easier for me to change my product than for you to change a wall. So typically I'm the one that's always going back and forth with specifications and changing what needs to be changed to match construction. Um,
Right.
that's what I see from my side of it, at least.
Have you worked on Division 10 and 12 when the project is actually on a design stage? Do they actually involve you at that time?
So far, the only one that I've worked on in the design phase is the one I'm on with you, up in Portland for shades. I don't think I've really ever been a part of a design team for, say, bathroom specialties or closets or anything like that.
Those
But
are
like,
something typical.
yeah, typically they are definitely. That's why a lot of the times the specs work that they give you. But there are rare cases where they don't. But this shade job up in Portland is definitely we're heavily involved in the design phase because a lot of the shade elements are designed. Things are designed around the shade elements. So, like for instance, that ceiling on the 6th floor, like we're involved in it, so that way when they enter it into their BIM model, they see if it works or not.
Right.
And then things get changed from there. It's going to change a little bit in field as they typically do, but most of the time, if it works in a model, it's not changing drastically.
Right.
Maybe a little bit plus or minus a foot, maybe half inch or however it might change in field. But if the model works, it's typically going to work out there.
Yeah. So that brings me to another thought. Since you are working on a design project or a design stage at the moment, um, did the GCs and or the architects, designers on this project had something from prior projects that they wanted to put in, and then you came in and changed those specs?
So far, the only thing that we've really changed is like on my side of it, some of the MEP sprinklers that are there. They've needed to just we need to work our shades around it. And that's sort of why we've gone to threaded rod. So we can change up and down the shades to get around sprinklers or however anything might be. But most of the stuff that we come into contact with, like in the ceiling when it comes to shades, they're not going to move for us. So that's when it gets creative on how we're going to basically attach these shades. Like you're not going to move entire duct work for a shade. So we've come up with the process of being able to kind of go up and down on threaded rods, or say you're mounting things straight to the deck and having threaded rod come down from the deck, or however you got to do to get around permanent structures. That's what we run into a lot is most of the stuff we do, everything that's there already it's permanent, it's expensive. So that's where we run into that sort of movement of design elements, but it's mostly us designing around them.
Yes. Yep. So shades was really something new that I worked on. So that was quite interesting. Any satisfying project, something interesting that you've been part of at UDH, and what made it stand out from everything else or every other project that you've worked on so far?
Well, my most unique one right now is definitely Portland. Hasn't started yet as far as the shades go, but I mean it's just been a lot of it's a learning curve for sure. Like pulling structurals to get load calcs and the way we're gonna mount and things that are in the way and what products can be used, what products can't be used, even down to painting the shade boxes, like what color they're going to be painted, how are we going to match this, what's the cost impact of a customized paint, or it's been a lot back and forth, a lot more to shades than I ever thought I was going to dive into. You think of a shade as just, shaded. I just think of a shade at my house. Yeah. But now that I've been a part of it, it's got remote controls. It's got sun sensor elements from outside. It's, weight of distribution across a unistrut. It's been a lot more design than I ever thought I was going to dive into when I was handed this project for sure. But it's been fun. It's just a lot of plan work for sure.
I'm sure a lot of technicalities. The sounds of it.
Yeah, it's they're so precise. Like the building's not square. The building has that
Yes.
rounded feature in the front, so
Angle, yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of just working with different angles, and a shade itself is very straight. So trying to work those elements around it it's the margin for error isn't there. So it's definitely been a lot of coordination. It's fallen a lot on
Oh, yes.
design elements for sure.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So here's a last piece of thought. What's that one thing that a GC or a building owner never appreciates about what goes on into properly managing all of Division 10 and 12?
Just the time people
Gone down
put in.
south.
Just how much work actually
Really?
goes into, like, not even just Division 10, but just the actual effort it takes to manage an entire project. I mean, guys are on site for hours. Sometimes you're pulling 12-hour days, 12-hour days, like the guys really like pull it all together, and like some people do a good job acknowledging it, but I definitely think, it goes under the rug on how much it actually takes to build some structures, and how much guys or girls that are on site are giving up like times in their lives to do this, to get work done. And it's hard to put enough recognition on like the actual effort it takes to do the construction. A lot of people look at the designers or whoever as like, they kind of get a lot of the credit for maybe money savings or what it took, but without the actual workers in the field, like none of it gets done. So like I think that's an element that gets missed a lot. It's just how much appreciation the guys in the field should have. Because without them, I mean, the higher ups don't have jobs. It's that simple.
Oh, yes. Right. All right, Nick, this was great insights from you. It was great chatting. Any last thoughts that you would want our viewers to know who actually are planning on thinking about getting into construction?
Yeah, it was great talking to you. Just do it. I mean, if it's something that you're thinking about it, you got to just dive in. You're gonna start knowing nothing, and you can go to learning something very fast. The old timers who've been doing this way before technology, they're your best friends. Like if you can learn how to build something without the tech, then using the tech to build it becomes way easier once you understand the actual mechanics of how something works. Building it is simple.
Yes.
But like just be prepared to know nothing. Go in there with your brain open, because you're gonna learn fast and you get thrown into the fire. So be ready.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Nick. It was great having you on the channel. Hopefully, we'll be. I really do want you to come back on the channel once you've done probably another 50 odd projects and something different and more to teach us about shades and Division 10 and 12.
Definitely, yeah. And I'll have to keep you posted on how our project works and how it goes.
Yes.
I'm sure our design elements.
You need to send me. You need to send me pictures and videos probably from the site.
Definitely, I can do that. I'm sure we're gonna have to design 800 other things before we get to that point, but it'll be there. Yes. We'll get pictures.
All right. Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you for your time.
No problem.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you. And that's a wrap on today's episode of BIM Talks. Big thanks to Nick from Unified Specialty Services for pulling back the curtains on what it really takes to manage Division 10 and 12. Now you'll never walk into a building again without noticing the windows. You're welcome. If you enjoyed today's episode, share it with someone in the field, drop us a review, and subscribe so you never miss a drop. We are out here covering the trades that keep construction running one spec section at a time. So until next time, keep your submittals clean, your lead times tight, and your punch list short. We'll see you in the next one. Are you just seeing one of me now?
I see one of you, yes.
All right, what's up with this strand of hair? Oh my gosh. Should have seen that earlier. Anyway.